Good day. Thank you for joining us for today's news. If you find this helpful, please consider subscribing. We're here every day with calm, clear updates just for you.
In New Zealand, Māori voters are facing significant challenges with the current electoral system. A political scientist has described the system as confusing, bureaucratic, and annoying, with many Māori being moved to the dormant role or having their details altered. Even after Upter Lloyd shared his frustration of discovering his details were missing. Similarly, Taryn Utigar found herself unable to vote after being told everything was in order. Laura Greaves, a political scientist at Victoria University, points to systemic colonization, which contribute to lower voter trust. She calls for greater investment in the Electoral Commission's IT systems and staffing. While the Electoral Commission has denied any technical issues, the concerns raised by voters and experts highlight a growing crisis in accessibility and inclusivity and surogai. As the next election, a pro-Sile Māori can participate without being deterred by a system that, as Greaves puts it, just sucks.
A powerful earthquake in the Pacific has triggered tsunami warnings across the region, and New Zealanders are being reminded that even small tsunamis can be dangerous. GENATE, New Zealand's geological monitoring agency, has issued a clear message. Do not underestimate the risk. Tsunamis are the ocean. A 10 to 50 centimeter wave may not look threatening, but it can still create strong currents that pull people out to sea. This warning comes after a magnitude 8.8 earthquake struck off Russia's Kamchatka coast, sending shockwaves across the Pacific. In Russia, parts of the Kuril Islands were hit hard with buildings swept away and a state of. In Japan, millions were evacuated as tsunami waves reached Hokkaido. The message is clear. Even small tsunamis can be deadly. Staying away from the water and heeding warnings is essential for safety. As the situation unfolds, GENATE continues to stress the importance of preparedness and awareness as safety.
In a move that has sparked controversy, the New Zealand government rushed through major changes to the pay equity scheme, using urgency after a high-level meeting between the Prime Minister and senior ministers. The amendments to the Equal Pay Act, which were not publicly anticipated, include halting 33 ante move BAT. These changes are expected to save the government nearly $13 billion over the next 4 years. However, internal documents reveal that the use of urgency was not discussed by official. Instead, the decision to use urgency came after a meeting between Prime Minister Christopher Luxon, Finance Minister Nicola Willis. Cricobs argue that the fast-track changes undermine democratic processes and public trust, while supporters claim the changes are necessary to prevent a surge in claims and reduce the financial burden on employers. The government now faces increasing pressure to justify its decisions.
In a shocking incident that has left a community in grief, 2 members of the Black Power gang have been found guilty of murdering Hori Gage in a cold-blooded attack. The murder took place on a Sunday afternoon in August 2023, when Gage was sitting in his car with his partner and 3 children. As he waited for his mother to help jumpstart his car, Royden Hanga and Robert Richards, armed with rifles, drove by and opened fire. The Crown described the attack as a targeted act of retaliation, even though Gage had no connection to the earlier incident that allegedly prompted the violence. Witnesses and forensic evidence show that Hanga and Richards fired multiple shots. With Gage being struck 6 times, the perpetrators fled the scene only to return later and instruct others to set the car on fire to destroy evidence. A getaway driver pleaded guilty to manslaughter. Despite the defense's arguments that the shooting was meant to intimidate, not kill, the jury found both men guilty after deliberating for over 11 hours. The trial highlighted the role of CCTV footage and witness testimony in securing justice to prevent such tragedies. Hori Gage's family is left to grapple with the trauma of witnessing such a brutal act, and the case has rendered discussions about gang violence and the need for accountability.
This is a story of tragedy, violence, and the aftermath of a single moment that changed lives forever in New Plymouth. A young man named Daniel Andaniko was fatally injured after being punched by Detoni Ware. Creative rage, Kampoboit. The courtroom was filled with the families and friends of both men, reflecting the deep emotional impact of the event. Thompson, who had previously pleaded guilty to assault, now faces a charge of manslaughter. As the legal process unfolds, the community has come together to support the Unganiko family, calling for justice and emphasizing this incident serves as a sobering reminder of the consequences of even a single act of aggression and the need for compassion and unity in times of tragedy.
In a tragic incident that has left the community reeling, Daytona Thompson has been charged with manslaughter following the Ong Punch death of Daniel Onganeko. Thenganuko, a 37-year-old videographer and passionate supporter of the club, was with a group of friends on the footpath when Thompson approached him. Without any obvious provocation, Thompson struck Enganeko with a clenched right fist, causing him to fall and hit his head on the edge of the footpath. Enganeko was rushed to hospital where he suffered severe brain injuries and later died. Thompson, who had previously pleaded guilty to assault, now faces a manslaughter charge and is expected to enter a plea at his next court hearing on August the 15th. The Tukapa Rugby Club has expressed deep sorrow over Enganeko. As the case moves forward, the community grapples with the loss and calls for justice while the legal process continues.
A man named Chad Lionel Erueti has been jailed for 28.5 months after deliberately driving his car into his ex-partner. The incident left her in fear for her life and caused her long-term physical and emotional trauma. Erueti has a history of domestic violence and has repeatedly breached. The court ruled that jail was the only appropriate sentence, rejecting a request for home detention. The victim described how she has been left in constant anxiety and is unable to sleep. Fearing that Erueti may return, the case has raised serious questions about how individuals with a history of domestic violence are managed within the justice.
New Zealand's Black Caps have taken control of the first test against Zimbabwe with a commanding lead and strong performances from key players. The match is set for a crucial day. 3 at Zimbabwe faces a tough challenge to avoid another heavy defeat.
A man who raped and murdered a sex worker, then ran her over with his car and threw her body into a river, has been denied early release by the New Zealand Parole Board. Peter Waihepe was sentenced to life in prison in 2005 for the brutal attack on a 24-year-old woman in Christchurch. He had previously sexually assaulted another teenager just days before the murder, despite some recent steps toward rehabilitation, including psychologist Renishepe Ramesh Peg, Ramage shooting. Kei Kalpori's Polichen, the case highlights the complex challenges faced by the justice system in dealing with violent offenders. While Waihepe has shown some willingness to engage in therapy, the board emphasized that significant work remains before he can be considered for release. Resources are available for survivors of sexual violence, emphasizing the importance of support and protection for victims.
In a heartbreaking incident, a 2-month-old baby named Bellamere Arwin Duncan died after being given an adult dose of phosphate medication. The tragedy has shocked the healthcare community and led to the suspension of an intern pharmacist and led to the case the baby was rushed to Starship Children's Hospital, where she succumbed to phosphate. A coroner's preliminary finding points to the medication being dispensed at an adult dosage by a pharmacy in Manawat, raising serious concerns about medication safety and oversight. In response, the Ministry of Health and Health New Zealand have launched a joint review, while MedSafe has visited the pharmacy. The Pharmacy Council has suspended the intern pharmacist involved, emphasizing the need for immediate steps to ensure public safety. Bellamere's parents are calling for a law change that would require all medications to be double-checked by 2 individuals before being dispensed. The Pharmacy Council's chief executive has stated the inquiry will be fair and thorough with the aim of preventing future tragedies. As the investigation continues, the case has highlighted the critical importance of medication safety and the potential consequences of even minor errors.
That's all for today's news. We appreciate your time. If you enjoyed this update, please consider subscribing. Your support helps us keep going.